Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Lexi B from healingthemodernmind.com, and today I'm going to be talking to you conscientious folks about why sometimes quitting is the most responsible choice you can make. Yes, quitting something can be the most responsible choice that you can make. So whether or not you're thinking about leaving a troubled relationship, quitting a job that makes you miserable, or doing what I have done, which is leaving my grad school dream, this is the video for you. If you're making that big decision, stay tuned and I'll tell you what I've learned from quitting my dream. In order to properly tell this story, you'll need a little bit of background about me. So I was a non-traditional student. I went to college the first time, took my first class at age 26. Prior to this, I didn't think that I was smart enough for college. I didn't think that I would ever have enough money to attend college. And in general, I just didn't think that I was the college type. And boy, was I wrong. I absolutely loved my undergraduate studies. It allowed me to deep dive intellectually into topics that were scratching an intellectual itch that I had yearned for years. From age 16 to 26, I was dying for intellectual stimulation, and academia gave me just that. During the time I was doing my undergraduate studies, I learned a lesson that was separate from school, or so I thought was separate from school, in my personal life. I have a loved one who was stuck in a miserable job and truly just painfully desperate to leave. And on the side, she was starting a cheesecake business. This business, when she talked about it, was the only time in my entire life that I remember this family member ever expressing pure joy. Literally, the first time I ever heard her say with excitement, "I'm so excited, this is so cool, this is so fun, and I'm so happy." She started this cheesecake business in her kitchen with her elderly mother, and together they would bring their cheesecakes to their community market. And eventually people were so impressed by the cheesecakes that they had more orders for cheesecakes on a regular basis than they ever really knew what to do with. Seeing my family members' joy, I asked, why don't you just quit your miserable job and start a business with your cheesecakes? It's already starting, just do it. But she was really apprehensive, and I could tell that she was afraid. She told me that she would need $10,000, $6,000 to start her business. And I totally disagreed, but you can't tell someone to do something unless they feel in their heart that they can do it. So years passed and she continued to work her miserable job to the point where she became really sick. I mean, really, really, really sick. Not just mentally, but physically. She became so ill until one day she had a stroke. And then the right side of her body was paralyzed, and now she would never make a cheesecake by herself ever again. Not only did she lose her miserable job, but she also lost her dream of making cheesecakes. I know it's a sad story, but this story has really stuck in my cells. It's really a part of me, and I take it to heart. This story happened to my very own mother. At the time, I vowed to never walk in the footsteps of this example. I wanted to live a life where I could see myself flourish and never let those kinds of limitations hold me back. And so this is the philosophy that led me to where I would eventually quit my master's degree. So let's talk about that story now. Like I said, I was a dedicated undergraduate student who loved the deep dive into intellectual conversations. So in school, I obsessed over neuroscience topics. I was obsessed with neuroplasticity. I was obsessed with psychology, with behavioral neuroscience, development, language, and everything that I was studying in speech pathology. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I was fully on the path of becoming an SLP. It was my dream. I felt like it was being actualized before my eyes. Sometimes my undergraduate degree was really hard, and it required grit grit being that thing that keeps you going, keeps you pushing, that internal motivation to keep going even when things are hard, because my passion behind my decision to follow this career path was so, so strong. By the time that I left my undergraduate degree, I had so many important transferable skills like writing, education in neuroscience, psychology, anatomy and physiology, and most important, I had acquired that skill of grit. I had acquired the idea that I could do anything that I wanted. And isn't that what undergraduate's supposed to teach you? That you can do anything that you want to do? And it did. I really did have a lot of really important skills that I would find that would eventually transfer into other opportunities for me in my life. But then, when I started grad school, it was a completely different animal. That intellectual deep dive that I loved from undergraduate was no longer there. Now I was asked to task switch, which was not my forte, which was not my strong suit, and it wasn't pleasurable to me. On a daily basis, I would have 3 or 4 meetings. I would go and do tedious documentation, technical writing that was really dry and boring and had nothing to do with human anatomy or neuroscience or any of those awesome intellectual pursuits that I loved. So eventually I found myself miserable, truly miserable. I told my mentor, this amazing clinical educator that I so value now, I told her, in all honesty, I'm miserable. And I meant it. Right before midterms, a younger student that I was in class with dropped from the program. And I remember my initial feeling was absolute pure jealousy. I wished that I could do what he did because I was in so much pain doing this task switching and handling all of these meetings and these extreme demands of my time. I was sitting 5 or 6 hours a day typing on the computer, looking at the computer, whereas in undergrad, I could take my books to the park and read under a tree. I could no longer do that. I had to sit in front of a computer and enter data into EMRs, and I was very unhappy. My mental health was declining, and when I looked around me, everyone else in the program was also miserable. I could see the room that I was in, and I was very unhappy. And anyone who knows me knows that I am such a positive person, that I have this mindset of being able to overcome. But in this situation, I didn't know that I could overcome this. Because when I looked out into my future and I saw that my master's degree would continue on for 1.5 years more, and then after that I would need another year of supervision, I could see that the misery would not be ending anytime soon. So I was face to face with a decision that was one of the hardest that I've made this year. I had to decide whether or not I would stick to my value of walking the path of most alignment. Was I going to follow the path of misery like my mother had? But I had vowed not to set that example for myself, not to follow that example. So I was between the choice of following that example, of sticking through it even though you're miserable, and following my best alignment to create my best life. And I chose to quit. I quit. And when I did make that decision, when I told my supervisor, this person who not only wrote my recommendation multiple times, but also nominated me for a prestigious scholarship, when I told her about my decision, she was so proud of me. She seemed to support me in every way, and she knew that I would be successful, as I felt in my heart that I could be too. So I took the leap. I quit. So now what? Now I'm filled with optimism again. Now I feel like it's my life and I'm in control again. And I feel that all of my opportunities have opened up so much now that I made this new choice to do what's right for me. The lesson in this for you is that no matter how much time you've dedicated to a relationship, to a job offer, to an academic course you can change your mind. You can pivot and follow the right path, because sometimes a path is the right path for a long time, but then eventually you need to make a different turn to get to where you are supposed to be. When your inner voice objects to the way things feel, maybe sometimes your inner voice is right. That's why sometimes quitting is the most responsible thing that you can do. I believe that we have a moral obligation to be right by ourselves. If we can't do that for ourselves, we can't do it for other people. So follow your alignment. If you're miserable, if you don't want to be there doing what you're doing anymore, cut your losses and go a different way. If you have a plan B, which I highly recommend, if you've got some skill sets that you can develop, these are fantastic ways to make a plan B for yourself so that you can live the life that you deserve to live. If you're not sure what your plan B should be, it would be whatever you're interested in, wherever your passions lie, what you like to do when you're not doing your primary objective, and see if you can develop skills there, because those will lead you to the opportunities that will give you an escape plan if your original plan crumbles around you. If you find that you're on the wrong path, make a new choice. You'll always be afraid to step out into the unknown, but sometimes the unknown holds the life that you want, bigger and better than you ever could have dreamed of. But if you keep playing small, keep playing safe, keep staying with where it's familiar, you'll never be able to achieve those things. Out there in the unknown awaits beautiful possibilities. And that's why sometimes quitting is the most responsible thing you can do for yourself. If you've enjoyed this YouTube video about why quitting can be the most responsible choice that you'll make, then be sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button so the algorithm knows that I'm awesome. I hope that my story can inspire you so that you can make choices that are in your best alignment in order to reach your personal potential and do exactly what you need to do to live your best life. My name is Lexi. Again, thank you so much for watching this episode. I can't wait to see you next time.